Is this thing on? Is this thing on? Almost had you there. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name's CJ. This is Out of Bounds, and in today's video, we're going to be doing another NBA PrizePicks board breakdown for the NBA slate here on Wednesday, April 28th. It's almost 2:30 p.m. here, and in case you missed it yesterday, well, there was no video. Well, there actually was a video, but then there wasn't. And apparently I had some kind of technical issue where my microphone was muted, and I just recorded over 30 minutes of content and had no idea that it was actually muted. I had a lot of good things to share with you guys and didn't get a chance to do it, so let's go back and talk about it. The first one, the biggest one, is that we hit 1,000 subscribers here on the channel. What a big accomplishment. I went from having 0 subscribers on January 1st, 2021 to just 4 months later having over 1,000 subscribers. So I just want to say thank you very much for supporting the channel. It means a lot to me that you guys have subscribed and that you have your notifications turned on and that you like these videos every day. It's a big humbling feeling for me. So thank you very, very much for all your continued support. Speaking of likes, I'm setting a goal today of 34.5 likes. I'm taking the over, which means we've got to get at least 35 likes on this video. And now that we've hit the big 1,000 plus subscriber mark, I think 35 likes is very, very attainable. You guys have been absolutely smashing the likes every day, so that should be pretty easy peasy. Another thing I want to talk about is the video that I put out, what was that, Monday? That video, for the very first time, the 8 picks that I put up in that video, all 8 of them hit. So it was the first time that a video has went perfect on picks, 8 for 8. But that was then, and this is now, and we're going to try and do that again. I would love to have another 8 for 8 video today. Another piece of news is if you're a patron and you've joined my Patreon community, well, congratulations to you, because the last 2 nights, the single stat player prop spreadsheet that I put together, which is basically an extension of what I do here on YouTube, has been absolutely on fire. Tuesday night, it was 74% accurate, and last night it was like 73.33% accurate. So, man, you can't ask for any more than that. Lots of winning plays from that spreadsheet. Up in our Discord community. So if you're a member of the Discord community, go to Winner Circle. You'll see that there's a ton of winners going on there. And if you're not a member of the Discord or the Patreon and you're interested in doing that, well, there's a link down in the description below for both the Discord and the Patreon, and you can definitely sign up. If you like what I'm doing here on YouTube, you'll like the Patreon content that I put together. It's an extension of what I do here in these little 30-minute videos. So, with all of that out of the way, we've got our microphone working, sound is coming through. It's a good day so far. Let's move into some NBA news real quick, and we'll talk about that, and then we'll get into some of the player props. We're talking NBA points, assists, rebounds, and three-point makes today. So first bit of news here, Marvin Bagley is upgraded to doubtful for the Kings Wednesday. So I guess he was ruled out, but now he's doubtful. So he sounds like he's getting closer to a return for the Sacramento Kings. So interesting news there. It looks like the Orlando Magic's James Ennis has been dealing with a calf injury. He's going to be available for Orlando on Wednesday. Harrison Barnes is going to be ruled out for the Kings Wednesday. That's a pretty big blow. He's been playing pretty good basketball lately. He's dealing with an adductor injury. It looks like Orlando's Terrence Ross, dealing with a back injury, is out again on Wednesday. I think this is one of those situations where Ross is a veteran. Orlando's really trying to evaluate their young talent, and so they're not going to rush him back into playing any kind of big major minutes. I mean, Orlando, we're one of the worst teams in the league. Let's just call it what it is. So it looks like the Celtics big man Robert Williams, dealing with a knee injury, is ready to return on Wednesday. So Boston will be with their big center. Hawks Bogdan Bogdanovic, dealing with a hamstring. He's questionable for Wednesday. That could be a big blow for the Atlanta Hawks. Jason Tatum, ankle rest. He's on track to return for the Celtics, so that's a big return for Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics. It looks like Anthony Davis, dealing with a calf injury, is probable for the Lakers on Wednesday, so he should be expected to play, as should Dennis Schroeder, also dealing with a calf injury. What else do we have here? Marc Gasol, probable to play for the Lakers on Wednesday. That Lakers front court, pretty crowded right now. You've got Marc Gasol, Andre Drummond, you got Montrezl Harrell, you got Anthony Davis. And you've only got, so many spots that those guys can play in so many minutes. So Miami's Andre Iguodala dealing with a hip injury is not listed on the Wednesday injury report, so he should be ready to go for Miami. James Johnson, adductor, he's probable for the Pelicans on Wednesday. Looks like Isaiah Hartenstein, concussion, has been ruled out for the Cavaliers on Wednesday. Steven Adams dealing with a toe injury. He's questionable for the Pelicans on Wednesday, so that would be a big blow to their starting lineup. Dario Saric, injury management, is questionable for the Suns on Wednesday. Jay Crowder, also questionable for the Suns on Wednesday. Duncan Robinson has been dealing with an illness. He's not listed on Miami's Wednesday injury report, so Duncan Robinson should be in the lineup. Looks like Matthew Dellavedova, that's a name we haven't heard a whole lot of, dealing with a neck injury. He is out for the Cavaliers on Wednesday. Amir Coffey, tailbone, questionable for the Clippers. Colin Sexton, concussion, out again for the Cavaliers on Wednesday night. That is a big blow. That should be a bump up for Darius Garland, Kevin Love, Jarrett Allen, and those folks. Nicholas Batum, shoulder, questionable for the Clippers on Wednesday. Tyler Herro, foot, questionable for Miami on Wednesday. KCP, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, dealing with an ankle injury, but he's probable to play for the Lakers on Wednesday. So there you have it. I mean, that's the gist of all of the news that we need to talk about for the NBA tonight. Not anything super major, but definitely keep an eye and an ear out for any NBA news, because that is a good way for us to get ahead. All right, with all that out of the way, man, let's get into some player props. We've got a pretty stacked NBA slate tonight, and I think I've landed on some pretty good names. Let's see what we've got. The first guy I want to talk about is going to be PJ Dozier. That's right, PJ Dozier, who has been thrusted into a larger role for the Denver Nuggets. I'm looking at his point prop today of 11.5, and I think that this is a situation where we go under on PJ Dozier, but let's do our due diligence here. Let's do the research together, and we'll see if PJ Dozier makes sense over or under. But I'm leaning toward the under on my initial first reaction here. So let's move on over here. Let's find this game and look at the game totals and see how the spread is looking as well. So this game is implied for a ton of points, 230.5 implied points, where Denver is a 4-point home favorite. So big totals and close spread means a lot of these guys, the major players anyway, should get their full run of minutes in this one. So you can see that I've already got the points column highlighted here on NumberFire. So we're going to do a little search for Dozier's name. And at 10.6 points, that is also a good sign if we're looking to take the under on Dozier here at 11.5 points. So now that we know that situation, let's move ahead to NBA.com. Again, totally free website for you to go and check out. They've got a ton of very good stat research tools and features in there. So completely free way to do this research on your own. But if you don't have time, that's why I offer the Patreon membership, because I do all this for you. I put it all in a spreadsheet, only the best plays, and you get that delivered to you every night before tip-off. So PJ Dozier for the season, 7.6 points per game, quite a bit lower than 11.5, but of course, that's probably not a completely good number for us to reference. So let's dig in a little bit further here and look at his last few games, because with guys like Jamal Murray, Monte Morris out of the lineup, well, Dozier's been playing more minutes here lately, and I'm sure his scoring average has gone up in that case. So in his last 5 games, he's appeared in all 5. He's getting a little bit over 29 minutes per game. His scoring average is 11.6 points, which is just 0.1 more than his projection on 11.5. So not really worried about this. Yeah, it's a little somewhat concerning, little baby teeny red flag, but anything that I'm, going to fade this play over. So far, I think I'm still sticking with the under here on Dozier. So the last site that we use is rotowire.com. They got a free NBA player props page here, which is very handy for our research purposes. So if we type in Dozier's name, you can see that DraftKings Sportsbook has him up at 11.5, and on that 11.5, people are taking the under. He's a minus 127 on the under. Same situation over on FanDuel at 11.5 points, minus 120 to go under, and even bigger position being taken over on BetMGM, a minus 133 on the 11.5 points there. And last but not least, PointsBet minus 134 on the under on 11.5 points. So guys, when I put it all together here, I love what I'm seeing over on these Vegas lines, these various sports books, every one of them taking a pretty good position here on the PJ Dozier under 11.5 points. His last 5 games, he's been scoring 11.6 points. Yeah, it's pretty close to 11.5, but man, with other guys on this team that are demanding high usage like Jokic, Michael Porter Jr., and so on, I just don't see Dozier really getting there. And I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to take the under on PJ Dozier and hope that he scores 11 or less points in this matchup. All right, so with him out of the way, I want to talk about the other side of this game and Zion Williamson. I don't know that he is high enough at 27.5 points, so I'm looking to take an over on Zion Williamson's 27.5 points. So let's go ahead and do the same thing that we just did for Dozier, but for Zion Williamson, we'll just type in his first name because it's short, and he's the only Zion in the NBA. So 28.2 points is his projection according to NumberFire, which puts him over 27.5. So that's a good first step in the right direction for us because we're looking to take the over on Zion's points here. So we type in his name, control click on it, and it opens up a new tab for us. Command click if you're on a Mac, and you'll get that new tab feature. And up pops his player card, and you can see that for the season, he's at 26.9 points per game, which puts him slightly under the projection of 27.5. So that's a little bit of a knock here against Zion, but I like to look at the last 5 games. It gives us a better picture of how he's been scoring lately, and I hold those in a little bit higher regard than I do his season averages. So we run the report here on his last 5 games. You can see that his scoring average is in fact up. He has appeared in all 5 games, playing over 33 minutes per game, and he's scoring at a 29.2 point per game clip. So that is a good sign for us as we are looking to take the over here. So let's move on. Let's take a look at the various sports books here. We'll type Zion's name in there. In DraftKings, they don't have a point prop up for Zion, but FanDuel does, and at FanDuel, they're taking him at a minus 118 to go over 28.5 points. Now, Zion's 27.5 on PrizePicks. I point this out because if people are willing to take the over on a sports book like FanDuel at 28.5 points, well then 27.5 points should be easy for us to go ahead and take. Now you can see he's at 28.5 on BetMGM. Now over there, they are taking the under on 28.5 points, which insinuates that they expect him to score at least 28 points or less. Now, if he scores 28, that's good for us because that's all we need him to do is score more than 27.5. So I'm not scared off by that figure. Now, over on PointsBet at 27.5, which is exactly, again, where he's at on PrizePicks, minus 143 on the over. So I like the way this is setting up. I'm seeing juice on 28.5 points for the over on Zion Williamson. I'm seeing very strong juice on PointsBet at 27.5 points for the over. I'm loving the game totals. I'm loving the spread. Both are very high and close. And I like the way that his last 5 game averages are looking. So this is a pretty strong play in my opinion. I'm sticking with it over for Zion Williamson and this 27.5 point prop. All right, with those 2 point props out of the way, we can move on to the assists. These are going to be the guys who are setting up the rest of their teammates by dropping some delicious dimes. So let's go take a look here and see who I'm liking. The first guy I want to talk about is Terry Rozier. Charlotte Hornets taking on the Boston Celtics tonight. I've got Terry Rozier potentially going under 5.5 assists. And you'll see why in just a moment. So back to NumberFire we go. We click the assist column, highlights this nice pretty yellow color, makes it easy for us to see. So we type in Terry Rozier's name, and you can see that his projection for the assists are at 4.9, which is good news because we want him to drop 5 dimes or less, especially if we're looking to take the under in this game. Now, let's look at the game totals and the spread real quick before we get too far ahead of ourselves. Of course, this is a revenge game as Scary Terry Rozier was once a member of the Boston Celtics before being traded to Charlotte in that Kemba Walker deal. You can see that this game total is 216.5 points, so not a super high total, not real low either. It's just kind of okay. And Boston is a 7.5 point favorite at home. So A little bit lower totals should mean less points, less assist opportunities, rebounds, 3-point makes, and all that. So that is a decent sign here for Terry Rozier and the under on this assist number. So let's open up his player card here. We get a look at his season averages for assists, and he's at 4.1 assists per game for the season, which is definitely under 5.5. But we know that guys like LaMelo Ball, Gordon Hayward, they've been out of the lineup. So we got to look at the last 5 game averages just to get a better idea of if this assist number is good or bad. Now you can see in his last 5 games, it's a little concerning here because he is averaging 7.4 assists per game in his last 5. So yeah, that does worry me. I wouldn't call that a little red flag. I'd call that a pretty good size red flag, a little bit of a knock against taking the under on Terry Rozier in these 5.5 times. But we're not going to stop there. We got to go look at the sports books and see how people are putting down their money on Terry Rozier's assist prop. So we type his name in, and you can see that right off the jump, DraftKings does not have an assist prop up for Terry Rozier, but FanDuel does. And at 5.5 assists, he's a minus 132 to go under. So that is a great sign working in our favor. Now, an even better sign are the next 2 sports books. Minus 161 on the under on BetMGM and a minus 160 on the under at PointsBet. So guys, it's hard for me to ignore Vegas and the Vegas lines. When people are out there slapping their hard-earned money down on these unders, on these different sports books, man, I like to ride with that. And a lot of the times, I just have to take that 5-game average that we know Terry Rozier's been dishing out over 7 assists per game in his last 5. I have to take that and I have to throw it out. And I have to just ride with Vegas because, hey, people are putting real money out there on this 5.5 assist prop on the under. So I'm going to stick with it. Terry Rozier under 5.5 assists. All right, so the next guy I want to talk about has been Mr. Consistent. And I'm talking about Nikola Jokic and these 9.5 assists. And when I say consistent, I don't mean that he's been consistently going over. In fact, I mean the opposite. He has been consistently going under since Jamal Murray, Will Barton, Monte Morris, all of those guys have went down with different injuries. So I'm looking to take the under again here on Nikola Jokic and these 9.5 assists. So let's take a look here. We've got the assists already pulled up. We're going to do a quick look at this prop for him, or this projection, I should say, over on NumberFire. So let's type his name in. And you can see that he's at 8.4 assists, which is quite a bit lower than 9.5. We just need him to be at 9 or less. And at 8.4, that means they're favoring him to go toward 8 more than they are 9. So this is even better. This is looking great for us. Good start here for this under on Nikola Jokic. So let's move over to NBA.com. We'll type his name in, and up we go with the player card for Jokic. And his season averages for assists are at 8.7 per game, which again is another good sign for us because we're looking to take the under here. So let's click his stats, go to traditional splits, advanced filters, all games, change it from all games to last 5, and click run and see what happens here. Now, when we do that, you can see that his assist figure is actually down at 7.2, which is A, lower than his season averages for assists, and B, much, much lower than his 9.5 assist prop on tonight's PrizePicks board. So I'm really, really liking the way that things are trending downward for the assists, especially since I'm looking to take the under on Nikola Jokic tonight. But last but not least, we've got to check RotoWire and the various sports books out there and see how things are looking. DraftKings Sportsbook, 9.5 assists, minus 127 on the under. Very good. FanDuel, 9.5 assists, minus 120 on the under. BetMGM, minus 133 on the 9.5 assists. And finally, PointsBet, minus 125 on the under. So this is a pretty strong play in my opinion. We've got all 4 sports books agreeing that under on Nikola Jokic and these 9.5 assists is a good way to go. We've got both his season averages and his last 5 game averages under 9.5 assists, so that is looking very good. And last but not least, the projections over on NumberFire also indicate that he will dish out less than 9.5 assists. So guys, I'm locking this Nikola Jokic under assists prop into a lot of my lineups tonight, and I think you should too. It seems like it makes too much sense. So there you have it for the assists. Now that is out of the way, we can talk some rebound props. And the first guy I want to mention is Jarrett Allen. So let's head back to PrizePicks. We'll click Jarrett Allen's name. He's taking on my poor Orlando Magic tonight. And at 10.5 boards, I think this is a good situation for him to potentially crush 10.5 rebounds. So let's highlight the rebound column here. Let's take a look at the game totals and the spread. And then we'll get into his projected rebound number tonight. Now, this game has a total of just 210.5 points, so pretty low scoring game. Two of the worst teams in the league. Let's just call it what it is. Cleveland is a 4-point favorite here at home against Orlando. So now that we know that, we can go ahead and look for Jarrett Allen. And he should be at the top of the list here. He's one of the better rebounders in the league, and he is. He's at 10.6 rebounds. So if we got to think about 10 rebounds, 11 rebounds, 10.6, well, that puts him over the hump, the midway point. So hopefully he's leaning closer to 11 tonight than he is 10.5. So with that in mind, let's move over to NBA.com. We'll look at his season averages and his last 5 games, and then we'll go from there and see what things are looking like on RotoWire and the various sports betting websites out there. So at 10.5 rebounds, we look at his season averages of 9.8. That puts him slightly under 10.5. But we don't stop there. We've got to look at those last 5 games because I think those will tell a different tale. I think his rebound should be on the up and up, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, I am mistaken. He is actually going down in rebounds to 8.4 rebounds per game. So that's not a good sign. That's not good news if we're looking to take the over on Jarrett Allen's rebounds. His season averages and his 5-game averages are actually below 10.5. And the fact that those 5-game averages are even lower than his season averages is a little bit concerning. I'm thinking about flip-flopping here. But before I make that decision to flip-flop and go under on Jarrett Allen's rebounds, I want to see how the sports books are stacking up. Now, there's not a lot of them out there right now for his rebound prop. You can see DraftKings doesn't have anything up. FanDuel doesn't have anything up. PointsBet doesn't have anything up. So we've got one book that we can reference here. Oh, excuse me. I've made a mistake. I wasn't in the rebound column. All right, there we go. That's a lot better. All right, so we've got DraftKings Sportsbook, 10.5 boards, minus 124 on the over. Now we're talking. FanDuel at 10.5 boards, minus 128 on the over. Okay, it's getting better and better all the time here. 10.5 rebounds on BetMGM, minus 133. Can we go up from there? Well, PointsBet has them at minus 130 for the over. So all 4 sports books agree that the over on Jarrett Allen's 10.5 rebounds is the way to go. Do not take Vegas lightly. Some of you out there, you know who you are. You see these 5-game averages or these season averages and you get, a little gun shy. You step away and you don't want to play these guys. Listen, I've just seen it happen all too often here. When there's a line out there of 10.5 boards and people are all taking the under on 4 different sports books, that's probably a good indication that maybe we should consider doing the same thing. So we got to put, the last 5-game averages aside. We've got to put the season averages aside and strongly consider going over on Jarrett Allen and these 10.5 rebounds. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick with it and hope that he can just smash the boards against my Orlando Magic. So with that one out of the way, let's talk another rebound prop here. I've got Nikola Vucevic at 11.5 boards. Highly anticipated matchup here against the New York Knicks. This takes me back, a little bit of nostalgia to the 90s when the Bulls and the Knicks were duking it out. Now, I'm not saying that either one of these teams are as good as they were back then, but anytime you get the Bulls and the Knicks, Chicago and New York going head-to-head, it's a good time. So Nikola Vucevic at 11.5 rebounds. I think he can potentially go under tonight. So let's find Vucevic here. He should be pretty easy to find. There he is. 10.8 rebounds. So they like the under as well. We're just looking for 11 rebounds or less for Vooch tonight. So let's look at the game totals and the spread here. We got 209.5 implied points. Not a very high scoring game, which is good if we're looking to target some unders. When the game totals are lower, I think all the stats then become lower. Game totals are higher, well then all of the stats typically tend to be higher as well. Points, assists, rebounds, 3-point makes, all that stuff. And then we got New York as a 4-point favorite at home. So the game should stay close and competitive despite the low totals. So not a blowout risk here whatsoever. So the under looking like a good way to go here for Nikola Vucevic thus far. We're going to do a little bit more research, look at the season averages, look at the 5-game averages. Now, I've mentioned it in previous videos that this rebounds per game for the season for Vooch at 11.3 is one that we can't really trust because he was with the Orlando Magic for so many games and for so long. So we're going to look at his last 5 games and really lean more heavily on that rebound average number. And you can see that for the last 5 games in which he's appeared in all 5 of those games, he is rebounding the ball at 11 rebounds per game, which would be fantastic. If he landed on 11 and we took the under, we would be getting paid. And that's what we're looking to do, right? We're looking to make some money. So with that out of the way, let's type in Vucevic on RotoWire and look at the sports books here. They're looking good. They're looking very good. Now, DraftKings Sportsbook has him as a -127 under 11.5 rebounds. FanDuel, they got him at -134 on the 11.5 rebounds to go under. BetMGM, -133 on the under 11.5 boards. And last but not least, PointsBet, -130 for the under 11.5 boards. So I think all 4 sites agree here. And it looks like everybody's taking a pretty strong position on under 11.5 boards for Nikola Vucevic. Not only that, but the last 5 games, he has been rebounding the ball at just 11 rebounds per game, which puts him under 11.5. And his projection is looking good too. It's also under 11.5. And the low game totals also lead me to favor the under on Nikola Vucevic and this rebound prop of 11.5. So I'm sticking with it. I'm going to stick to my guns and take the under on Nikola Vucevic in this 11.5 rebound prop. So let's wrap the video up by talking a couple of 3-point props. I'm not going to lie, I didn't like a lot of the 3-point props on the PrizePicks board today, but I did find 2 that I felt comfortable enough possibly targeting here. So the first one's going to be Julius Randle, New York Knicks, taking on the Chicago Bulls. So this is the other side of that game here. 2.5 3-point makes for Julius Randle. Now, I'm not going to beat around the bush here. I'm going to tell it like it is, as I always do. Julius Randle's 3-point attempts, his 3-point makes have been on an upward trajectory. So it's a little concerning that I am looking to go under 2.5 3-point makes for Julius Randle because more often than not, he has been going over on his 3-point props. So 2.5 3-point makes. Let's type in Julius Randle's name today and get a better idea how he's been shooting the 3 ball, both for his season and for his last 5 games. So if we open up his stats tab and go to traditional splits, it comes up with his season averages. Now on the season, he's attempting a little over 5 3-points per game. And on that number, he is making 2.2 of them. So that would be good. That is a good indication that maybe the under is the right move here. But let's run a report on his last 5 games and see how things have changed. And you can see that his 3-point attempts are up. He is up to 7 3-point attempts per game. So he's playing more on the perimeter these days than he is down in the paint, apparently, taking a lot more threes than he has in the past. Now, on those 7 attempts, he is making 3.4 of them. So like I said, guys, not beating around the bush, straight shooter here. Julius Randle has been going over 3 or more 3-point makes in his last 5 games at 3.4. This is a little concerning. But we've got to go back to RotoWire. We got to type in Randle's name and see if there's some props out there that can potentially help us out on these sports books. Now, contrary to what we just saw in his last 5 game averages, people are taking the under here on all these sports books. DraftKings Sportsbook, 2.5 3-point makes, -139 for the under. FanDuel Sportsbook, 2.5 3-point makes, -130 on the under. BetMGM, 2.5 3-point makes, -154. I can't ignore these numbers. These are looking very juicy. I'm not going to lie. And then finally, PointsBet, 2.5 3-point makes, a -140 on the under. So look, you can be bold And if you're playing not on PrizePicks, but on one of these different sports books, if it's legal in your state, this could be a good spot for you to take a position on one of these overs. I mean, you're getting, let's see, 115 on the over here on BetMGM. I mean, if you think Julius Randle hits 3 or more 3 balls in this one, you know, that could be a good way to go against the grain, I guess you could say, for a bigger payday. But for us over here on PrizePicks, I'm going to stick to taking the under here. This game is low scoring. Julius Randle, I don't think, is going to continue to make all of these three-pointers that he's been making recently. He's got to come back down to earth at some point, and maybe this is the game that he does that. So I'm going to stick with it. Yeah, it feels a little dangerous, but doggone it, you got to risk it for the biscuit, don't you? All right, the last one I want to talk about is Michael Porter Jr. He's at 3.5 3-point makes. I just think that this is a little bit high. Let's take a look, though, together. So they are taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. Let's type in Porter's name here. There's all these Porter Juniors. That's the thing. If you have a son and your last name is Porter, he's got to be a Porter Jr. You got to name him after you, apparently. That's the move. So we open up his player card here. And as that's loading, I'm going to take a swig of water. All right, click the stats tab. Click traditional splits. Move it on down the line here. You can see that for the season, he's attempting 6 3-point attempts per game. 2.6 of those go in for him on average for the season. So that is quite a bit lower than 3.5. That is a great sign for me. But let's look and see how those numbers change in his last 5 games. Whew. And boy, do they change. Attempting 8.8 3-point attempts per game in his last 5, and he's making 4.8, nearly 5 3-point makes over his last 5. That is a huge red flag. You know, I was feeling pretty good here about maybe going under on Michael Porter Jr. in these 3.5 3-point makes, but geesh, how do you ignore this? Now, will New Orleans put the clamps on him? Maybe. That could happen. But, yeah, that's a little concerning. He has been shooting a lot more threes and making a lot more threes with all of the injuries that have hit this Denver Nuggets team. But let's look at the sports books here. You got DraftKings Sportsbook, 3.5 3-point makes. They're taking the under at -139. Same thing over on FanDuel, the under at -132. Same thing over on BetMGM, -139 on the under. And we're wrapping it up with a strong -140 on the under for 3.5 3-point makes. So you got Vegas saying one thing, you got these averages staring you in the face. Which way are you going to go here? I think I'm going to roll the dice and stick with the under on Michael Porter Jr. and these 3.5 3-point makes. But it's not an easy decision, guys. It's a tough one. I'm not going to lie. It's difficult. You got to have some cojones to get the dollars. So that's going to do it for today's video. I'm so glad that I'm back on YouTube after yesterday's debacle, the audio issues, the mute button was on, whatever happened, it sucked. I poured like an hour into shooting and editing and all that other stuff and uploading, and then it just, you know, I was without sound. You guys couldn't hear me. You had to read my lips, some of you out there. So I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Definitely hit subscribe if you haven't yet. Turn on those notifications, and good luck tonight. And until the next one, this is CJ for Out of Bounds. Good luck. Let's go win some money. Peace.